Gronowski, publisher of Yankee T News. Here I am with this fine evening, Monday, March 31st. Here he goes again. See, Eric's in charge of everything, the lighting, the cameras, production. Anyway, right, so keep going. Okay, boy, where to keep going. All right, so March 31st, the day of our Lord 2025, here in the Parkway Diner. And I've decided at this point I'd like to offer to you the following imagery that I think best captures what the hell is going on, all right? And it's simple. Pick your favorite battle scene. It starts with one side flooding the battlefield, and then the other side counterattacks. And now in the middle of the field, it's nothing but mayhem. Nothing but mayhem. Chaos, confusion, and mayhem. That's what we got. Okay, meantime, I want to jump. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. Just to make some of you people feel better, okay? You know, some people have been complaining. They think Elon Musk is president, but he can't be unless someone can get his birth certificate in order the way he got Obama's birth certificate in order. So keep that in mind. And, all right, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, so forgive me. Steve Bannon was making a presentation at a meeting in Colorado. So he did not miss the opportunity to speak up for Tina Peters. And so here you go. I like this idea right here. Cut off all federal funds to the state of Connecticut until they free Tina Peters. And there you go. Just let the good old governor know that you think it's a fabulous idea too. We think that your state does not deserve another penny of federal funds. And in fact, we would encourage clawback. So that's another discussion. All right. This week's theme, after having wrestled with this a little bit with Eric, is the last gasp of NATO. Yeah, the last gasp. Their conduct, their behavior in the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks, has been foolish beyond measure, all right? This, of course, was prompted by President Trump taking certain actions, and now they're wondering what do they do next. So what was one of the first things? Is we don't need America. We can handle this ourselves. Yeah, until they sat down and tried to iron out their differences and come up with a plan of action. Every time they came up with a plan of action, it was, well, who's going to go first? Are you going to go first? No. You going to go first? No. And so now they look like the indecisive, dithering wimps that they are. And I say this in spite of the fact that Germany is purportedly spending, what is it? Not 1 billion. It's a huge number they're increasing their defense spending by. And this reflects the shared sense that they are very distrustful of Putin and believe that he wants to expand the borders of Russia. Now, there has been this discussion. I'll bring it up. What Putin wants to do and what he can do are two different things, all right? And I would say that given the decline in his population, the loss of manpower already from the Ukraine war, Putin's options are becoming smaller and smaller, in my humble opinion. Now, as I kept looking at this inability to act, or they're trying to raise the amount of money that they spend on defense, is laudable, but they're not getting their act together. So here's the here's the problem. If you read my essay, which I put together, I'm really going in two directions on this about NATO. On the one hand, yes, maybe they'll get their act together, okay? It remains highly uncertain, and it sure doesn't look good at the moment. On the other hand, we're left with a more disastrous outcome, all right? If they're going to keep pounding their chest and wanting to push up against Russia as NATO, this can only end in catastrophe as far as I'm concerned. Now, the thing I want to just spend a few minutes on here and then move on. Remember, we had a little incident in Moscow a few days ago. A certain limousine blew up in the streets of Moscow. Yeah, one of Putin's limousines. All right. Not good. Well, you know what that's reminiscent of, by the way, ladies and gentlemen? If you consider the parallels in history, boy, that's not all that different from what happened in, I believe it was Sarajevo in June of 1914, when Prince Ferdinand, or was it Archduke, was assassinated. Okay? You have two examples of violent acts, one that ended up setting off World War I. But here's the thing. So I decided to go back and take a look at the preconditions for World War I. And there were a number of factors, the most important being that there were actually military alliances that looked and felt like precursors to NATO. You had Austria and Hungary in a military alliance. You had Germany supporting Austria and Hungary. Meantime, on the other side of the fence, so to speak, with Russia, you had France acting as an ally. So what a mess, right? I mean, what more could you ask for? All right, so there you go. And you look at that and you say, well, gee, if these guys were ready to fight for each other, NATO's ready to fight for each other, it looks like all you need is a precipitating event. And all of this, of course, as you may know, if you're following this much, is that Zelensky and Putin are making things worse, not better. Their constant blowing hot and cold on a ceasefire agreement is only leading to a more unstable situation that should give us even more concern than President Trump changing his mind on tariffs. Just saying. So the historical parallel should be noted, all right? And I'll throw in one other here and then move on. There was something that was going on back in 1914. It was called the Spirit of 1914, or German millenarianism. So you had, for a very short time, within the German culture, this highly optimistic belief that Germany was on the verge of a great transformation of some kind. Boy, were they right, but they had it wrong. So while they're believing that, they had no concept of what they were getting into when they entered into the war. They thought it would be done quickly, they'd be victorious, there's their great transformation. But nope, that's not how it worked out. And that whole spirit of 1914 spirit just frittered away. There could be a similar false sense in NATO right now, because if you add up all their military budgets, you look at that and you say in terms of numbers, yeah, they could beat Russia if they work together. There are so many other factors to consider, and they're all bad. So we're in the middle of a battle, and we don't know how this is going to shake out. But boy, oh boy, you and I should be hoping that cooler heads prevail. So now, not such a cool head. Here in the news, what happens? The French court finds Marine Le Pen guilty of embezzlement, and they sentence her to 4 years of prison, 2 years of no jail time, 2 years of probation. I guess she'll be at home with one of those little collars on her ankle. And you find that a lot of people are feeling quite cynical about this. We have two schools of thought here. It's claimed that a lot of evidence was shown at trial that made it look like she was guilty, but you also have the argument that she was framed. So if you're going to frame somebody, make sure you do a thorough job of it. So yes, as the plan is, she'll put this on appeal. We have no idea how this is going to shake out. That said, even if she is prevented from running for president in France in 2027, there's still other members of her party who are popular and have good standing with their party members, such that they would have a chance at winning rather than her. So it's called stay tuned. All right, next. Boy, was I waiting for this one. It's about time. So, what did Elon have to say? He said, don't you think it's unusual that you have congressmen who have salaries of what, 150, maybe $200,000 a year, and they have net worths of 20, 50, 70, $100 million? How do they get all that money? So now we're going to do the hard work of investigating them. Bring it on. That's what I say. Bring it on. Next, these things happen, by the way. I think we should just accept it. There it was, I think, in England. We had a transphobic toddler who got kicked out of school. Yep, looks like he said something a little inappropriate, and the school was having none of it. So the insanity continues. Now, the next thing I just want to touch on was what happened in New Mexico, where we had the firebombing of the GOP headquarters in New Mexico, and then they scrawled ICE equals KKK. All right. My question for these people is, what do you really expect to accomplish? All right? Are you just getting your yah-yahs out? Is this just making you feel better? Because if anything, you're losing support, you're losing friends, and guess what? You're going to lose money as well. This is all stupid. It's just, what are you thinking? All right? On the other hand, keep it up. I want to see you guys gone, frankly. Now, we have had that discussion, haven't we, about the FBI. Just how corrupt is the FBI? Well, we're going to have to come up to an unpleasant conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, even though people like Sean Hannity were saying, oh, it's only 5% of the FBI that's bad. The other 95% is okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. All right? So, FBI is FUBAR. And what we're having now is the likes of, although Pam Bondi hasn't come out herself, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and others are making it clear that this is turning out to be a lot harder than expected. And we shouldn't be surprised at that. Still, I think there's a general sense we should see some arrests. But here's my explanation, all right? Bear with me. My explanation. You're dealing with a thicket of regulations, administrative procedures, precedents, you name it. They cannot just pluck the person out and say, we're arresting you, because they're all protected by this thicket. So they're stuck with having to hack away at the thicket until they can finally reach that individual. So that may be one kind of image to suggest. But let me leave you with another one, which is even better. As we know, a number of individuals, Hillary, for example, Biden, for example, Harris, for example, have had their security clearances taken away. And there's a suggestion that Judge Boasberg's security clearance should be taken away as well. When you start to do things like that, where you're lessening their status within the administrative state, that's going to make it easier to prosecute them. So taking away the clearances, though, is just one of apparently many steps that have to be carried out. So I just keep that in mind. Now, I put up the link here. This is really disturbing, all right, if it's at all true. There's a YouTube link. It's the addendum, right? Have you put up the addendum, Eric?
It should be.
Sure. All right, it'll be up there soon. So, I mean, we have the regular items and the addendums. Anyways, the addendum seems to be, well, more interesting. You have this woman, I'm sorry I don't remember her name, but she is explaining in this YouTube video about how the truth is finally beginning to come out about the impact of COVID on China. She is dropping numbers and putting up clips in this video that make the following something that you and I will have to think about. Dramatic pause. Will it turn out that as many as 400 million people in China died during this time? 400 million? You have people talking about how whole towns, Beijing has gone dead, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the other city, Shanghai, and other major cities have seen this big drop off in activity. Where did everybody go is the question they're asking. So there's the link. You watch it, decide for yourself, okay? So that's all I can say about that. Meantime, yeah, I have another complaint, a bitter complaint, an angry complaint. Here we, if I may, all right, let me do it again for emphasis. What the hell? What the hell? Here we have this report talking about how you already have mail-in ballots being handled in back rooms without checkers or watchers in Wisconsin for this all-important election that's coming up. How are they getting away with this? That's what I want to know. How are they getting away with this? I mean, we've been warned about this. It boggles the mind. Okay, so let me add just one more layer to this, courtesy of Elon Musk. He's out there in Wisconsin too. That there are illegal aliens voting. We've got mail-in ballots and illegal aliens voting in this Wisconsin election, he maintains. Why is this being allowed to happen? This is sickening. And there's another thing, although I'll put this more in the good news category. What was it? So it turns out that Elon has also found that in 2024 there was a dramatic surge in the number of non-citizens getting Social Security numbers. We're talking over 200,000 people in 2024 who got their own Social Security numbers. Now, I think there are procedures for non-citizens getting them, but when you have numbers that large, it's gotta make you wonder. It's gotta make you wonder, okay? Now, one other thing. So I got that. All right, so check out my links. The theme is justice is supposed to be blind, not judges. All right, of course, this is a reference to Judge Boasberg, but there are others as well. And what these judges continue to allow to be done in the name of whatever their strange prejudice is appalling. And of course, I can't help but throw in a little bit of irony. It was the Institute of Peace that made war. If you didn't catch it in the news, when Elon finally got to their doors, well, guess what? They barricaded the doors. The president of the Institute said, we're going to fight. We're not going to let them get away with this. Some Institute of Peace you are. Yeah, okay. Some Institute of Peace. All right, let's see. I'm almost done here, folks. You got to stay with me on this, please, please. All right, there are vegetables, mostly root crop vegetables. So call it carrots, potatoes, onions and such, that will tend to contain microplastics, whereas leafy green vegetables, chard, spinach, and the like, will have fewer microplastics, something that you all should know about. Now, before we went on the air, there was a little back and forth here between Alan and Eric over the concept of a third term for President Trump. So the article is there. They didn't get a chance to read it. That's okay. But the point is that, see, the nature of statutory law is that because it is so narrow and confined in most cases, it leaves so many things open to interpretation. So if you're saying, on a statutory basis, the President of the United States, the person who runs for president only served 2 terms, now it's been discussed before, but what about if they switcheroo, okay? So now he's the vice president rather than the president, and Vance runs as president, they win the election, and they switch back again, all right? They can get away with this? Well, apparently, at least what?
For 2 years.
Yeah, okay, whatever. So,
That was discussed with the Clintons.
and they were what?
That was discussed with the Clintons. Back then
Yes,
we were against it.
right, yeah,
Now
okay.
we're for it, because we're for the thing we were against.
Well, I'm not so sure I'm for it myself, okay? I mean, this kind of game playing doesn't go down well with me.
So whatever the other side is for, we have to be against.
Yes.
Until they're against it, then we have to be for it.
Jeez.
Constitution is something you hold the other side to,
Okay,
but I don't have to follow it, 'cause I'm
all right.
government.
All right, also just a quick,
Bus weasel.
all right, I just have to make a quick comment about Greenland. The quick comment, ladies and gentlemen, is love takes time. And I want to remind you there was something very strange. You had in the news the Danish Prime Minister criticizing Vance for coming back again to Greenland. But apparently, according to this report, the Prime Minister went with him to Greenland. Wait a second, you just complained about him going to Greenland, but you went with him to Greenland. It's moments like these where I have to say love takes time. And on that happy note, I will see you next week.